Before we continue, let's save our workbook to ensure we don't lose any progress. Click on File and then select Save As. Choose your preferred location on your PC. Enter a suitable name for your file. I'm naming it Retail Transactions Dashboard. Set the Save As type to Tableau Packaged Workbook. Click Save to complete the process. In this part of tutorial, we will create several calculated fields to enhance our dashboard's functionality. Calculated fields allow us to perform custom calculations to generate new insights, create custom aggregations, or derive additional dimensions that aren't available in original dataset. We'll start by creating calculated fields for sales amount. These include selected month sales, previous month sales, percent change sales previous month, percent change sales positive, percent change sales negative. Let's begin by creating the first calculated field. Open the drop-down menu and select Create Calculated Field. Name the field Selected Month Sales and then enter the calculated field formula. I've provided a list of all the calculated fields used in this dashboard on a web page. You can copy and paste the formulas from the link available in the description below. Let's dive in and see what this calculated field is doing under the hood. This part truncates the transaction date to the first day of its month. It effectively removes the day and year, leaving just the month. Similarly, this truncates the month selector parameter date to the first day of its month. It ensures we're comparing month-only values. This condition checks if the month of the transaction date matches the month selected in the month selector parameter. If the condition is true, it returns the sales amount for that transaction. If the condition is false, it returns 0. This ends the if-else statement. Next, let's move on to create the calculated field for previous month sales. Again, open the drop-down menu and select Create Calculated Field. Name the field Previous Month Sales and then enter the calculated field formula. Let's take a moment to understand how this calculated field works behind the scenes. This truncates the transaction date to the first day of its month, effectively removing the day and year, leaving just the month. This part subtracts 1 month from the month selector parameter, which has also been truncated to the first day of its month, ensuring we're working with month-only values. This condition checks if the month of the transaction date matches the previous month of the selected date in the month selector parameter. If the condition is true, it returns the sales amount for that transaction. If the condition is false, the transaction date is not in the previous month, it returns 0. This concludes the if-else statement. Now, we'll set up the calculated field for percent change sales previous month. Again, select Create Calculated Field from the drop-down menu. Enter percent change sales previous month as the name and proceed to input the formula. Let's spend some time to understand this formula. This part adds up all the sales amounts from the selected month. This part adds up all the sales amounts from the previous month. Calculates the difference between the total sales of the selected month and the previous month. Divides the difference by the total sales of the previous month to find the percentage change. Our next step is to create calculated fields to determine if the percentage change in sales is positive or negative. We will build 2 separate calculated fields for this. Percent change sales positive and percent change sales negative. Again, select Create Calculated Field from the drop-down menu. Let's spend some time to understand this formula. This checks if the percentage change in sales is greater than 0. If it is, it returns the upward triangle symbol to indicate a positive change. Now, duplicate the percent change sales positive calculated field and rename it to percent change sales negative and replace the formula. This checks if the percentage change in sales is less than 0. If it is, it returns the downward triangle symbol to indicate a negative change. Once you've created the calculated fields for sales amount, repeat the same process for number of items and retail transactions count. I'll be doing it quickly here, but you can slow down the video if you want to see the entire process in detail. Make sure to move all the calculated fields in their respective folders. Now, let's create the calculated field for metric swap, which will be used to dynamically switch between different metrics in our dashboard. This functionality is crucial for providing a flexible and interactive user experience. We'll create these calculated fields to support this feature. Metric swap current month, metric swap current month label, metric swap previous month, metric swap previous month label, percent change metric swap arrow positive, metric swap arrow negative. First, we are creating metric swap current month. This field determines which metric is displayed for the current month based on the user's selection. It dynamically updates to show sales, number of items, or retail transactions count, depending on the chosen metric. Open the drop-down menu and select Create Calculated Field.
Name it Metric Swap Current Month and enter the formula.
This starts a conditional statement that checks the value of the metric selector parameter. If metric selector is set to sales, it calculates the sum of selected month sales. If metric selector is set to items, it calculates the sum of selected month items. If metric selector is set to transactions, it calculates the sum of selected month transactions. This ends the conditional statement. Next, we are creating metric swap current month label. This field formats and displays the selected metric value according to the metric selector parameter. It shows sales values with a $sign and in thousands, items in thousands, and transactions as full numbers. This ensures that the metric labels are clear and user-friendly, making it easy for users to interpret the displayed data. Open the drop-down menu and select Create Calculated Field.
Assign the name Metric Swap Current Month label and insert the formula.
This starts a conditional statement that checks the value of the metric selector parameter. If metric selector is sales, it calculates the sum of selected month sales, divides it by 1000 to convert to thousands, rounds it to one decimal place, converts it to a string, and adds a $sign and K to format it as thousands of dollars. If metric selector is items, it calculates the sum of selected month items, divides it by 1000 to convert to thousands, rounds it to one decimal place, and adds K to format it as thousands of items. If metric selector is transactions, it calculates the sum of selected month transactions and converts it to a string without any formatting. This ends the conditional statement. Now we'll create similar calculated fields for the previous month. We'll start with metric swap previous month and then move on to metric swap previous month label. I'll be doing it quickly here, but you can slow down the video if you want to see the entire process in detail. Next, we are creating percent change metric swap calculated field. This field calculates the percentage change between the selected metric for the current and previous month. Lastly, let's create calculated fields to determine if the percentage change for selected metric is positive or negative. We will build two separate calculated fields for this. Metric swap arrow positive. Metric swap arrow negative.
Now moving all metric swap calculated fields in a separate folder for easy access.
Now we need some calculated field for metric selection button like selected metric for sales, selected metric for items, selected metric for transactions, dummy highlight. First, let's create selected metric for sales. This is a Boolean calculation that checks if the value of the metric selector parameter is set to sales. It returns true if the selected metric is sales and false otherwise. This helps in controlling which metric is displayed based on the user's selection. In the similar manner, we'll create selected metric for items and selected metric for transactions. Lastly, we are creating a calculated field dummy highlight. This will help us in disabling highlight.
Moving all metric button calculated fields in a separate folder.
Now we'll create some other miscellaneous calculated fields which we will be using later in the video. First, let's create state filter all. This calculated field checks if the state filter parameter is set to all and returns a true or false value based on the selection. It is used to modify visualizations or calculations when all states are selected. Next, we have filter. It determines whether the location state matches the selected state filter or if the state filter is set to all. It is used to control which data is displayed based on the state filter selection, including all states if all is chosen. Since our transaction hour field includes minute level details, we need to group it by hour. Let's create a calculated field to achieve this. Next, we are creating another calculated field index. This generates a sequential number for each row in the data, starting from 1. We will be using this calculated field in our visualization later in the video. In order to identify and format our tooltip to highlight the minimum and maximum values for sales, items and transactions like shown here, we need to create certain calculated fields such as maximum sales bar, maximum items bar, maximum transactions bar, minimum sales bar, minimum items bar, minimum transactions bar. Let's create these calculated fields one by one. I'll be doing it quickly here, but you can slow down the video if you want to see the entire process in detail. If you look at my dashboard, you'll notice that I've highlighted the top value in each bar chart. This is done using a top 1 calculated field. It identifies the top ranked value in the metrics for current month field by using the rank function. The field returns true for the highest value, enabling us to highlight or filter the top performing item. We'll dive into how this works when we create the respective bar chart later in the video. Let's make this calculated field. Additionally, I've highlighted the maximum value in the KPI bar charts for sales, items, and transactions. To achieve this, we'll need to create separate calculated fields for each. Top 1 sales bar, top 1 items bar, top 1 transactions bar. Let's go ahead and create them. This field checks whether the state selected by the user state filter matches the states in the dataset states. It returns true when there's a match and false otherwise. This will allow us to filter the data for specific states based on user selection. In the data pane, select Sheet 1 states. Open the drop-down menu and choose Create Calculated Field, name its selected states and enter the formula. This is the end of calculated fields part.